It's 2 o'clock, so please get seated and then insert your cards into the microphones so that we can start the deliberations of the afternoon. Okay, so we have a quorum, and I would like to start the proceedings of this afternoon. But before we go to document 87, I have two issues. I would like to have it mentioned for the record that Grenada, when we were dealing with document 91, had a technical problem with the microphone and so couldn't take the floor, but they would have been supportive of the document, just to make sure that this is reflected in the record. And secondly, as is customary when we have a secret ballot, usually there are several parties who wish to make known how they have been voting. We haven't been doing this morning when we had the vote on eels, so I would like to invite parties now in relation to this to tell us what they have voted so that we are all aware of this. I see the United States of America.
Thank you, Chair. As a matter of policy, the United States endorses transparency at CITES and wishes to make known our vote on Proposal 35, which was to oppose the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. Any other party wishing to make it known what their vote was in the secret ballot? I see the European Union.
Thank you, Chair. In the spirit of transparency, the EU voted in favor of the proposal. Thank you.
UK.
Thank you, Chair. Similarly, the UK voted in favour and wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, UK. So seeing no other party wishing to take the floor, we now turn our attention to document CoP20, Doc 87 on eels. In this document, the Conference of the Parties is asked to adopt the draft decisions 20AA to 20EE on eels, Anguilla SPP, contained in the Annex 1, adopt the draft resolution on trade, conservation and management of anguillate eel species, Anguilla SPP, contained in Annex 2, and delete decisions 19218 and 19221. Note also any comments from the Secretariat that are also contained in the document when you refer to this topic. So with this, I open the floor for any comments to parties. United States.
Thank you, Chair. The United States welcomes the work of the committees to develop this important document. The United States strongly supports the draft resolution on anguillate eels, as well as the draft decisions in this document. We emphasize the need for the draft resolution as a tool in protecting eels and the legal market they sustain. The implementation of the draft resolution will enhance conservation efforts for anguillate eels, including for the United States. The resolution represents the robust discussions during the current intersessional period in which we actively participated. Mr. Chair, if this is the appropriate time, we would like to suggest 2 edits to the resolution text for which I can turn to my colleagues. We ask that each of our edits be considered separately by the parties at this time.
Thank you, Chair. Our first edit would be in the preamble, where it says, concerned that CITES listed anguillate eels. We would change this preambular paragraph to say, concerned that anguillate eels are illegally traded on a global scale, comma, driving declines in the eel populations and in the economic value for the legal eel trade, as well as undermining anguillate eel conservation. I'm happy to repeat if that's helpful.
Yes, please do so.
In the preambular paragraph, we would replace this paragraph to say, concerned that anguillate eels are illegally traded on a global scale, comma, driving declines in eel populations and in the economic value for the legal eel trade, as well as undermining anguillate eel conservation. If that's sufficient, we have a second separate edit. Thank you. In the operative text in paragraph 3, where it says recognizing that due to limited understanding, we would like to replace this paragraph as follows. Paragraph 3 urges parties, comma, due to the limited understanding of the stock recruitment relationship for CITES listed eel species, comma, to not authorize exports, re-exports, or imports of eels with source code R, parentheses, ranching, comma, unless there is sufficient scientific evidence that the definition of ranching as included in Resolution Comp 11.16, Rev CoP15, is met, comma, including requirements for non-detriment findings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. I think we have captured these edits. I would now give the floor to China. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. China recognizes and agrees that the resolution on eel should be at genus level. However, since the genus listing proposal for angular species is not accepted, only the European eel out of 19 angular species is regulated under CITES. As the Secretary has pointed out, resolution is for the guidance and the interpretation of the CITES provisions. Having a resolution that covers an CITES species is unprecedented. China knows that in the draft resolution there is a provision requiring parties to report information to Secretary. China is concerned that this reporting requirement creates a de facto convention duty on parties that goes beyond the purview of the convention. It is imprudent in law and problematic in implementation. In this connection, China would like to suggest a few minor changes to the draft resolution to rectify this issue. For paragraph 1, the first word, urges, to be revised to recommends. For paragraph 8, after on the implementation of this resolution, add relating to CITES listed ungulate species and, comma, where available, comma, other ungulate species. I'm happy to repeat it.
Yes, please.
Relating to CITES listed ungulate species and, comma, where available, comma, other ungulate species. And the rest of the paragraph continue unchanged. Lastly, we would like to suggest an editorial change for paragraph 2D, changing the word angular species to ungulate species for the consistency of language. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. European Union.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the EU and its member states. I would like to start by acknowledging the constructive cooperation and commitment from all the members of the Intersessional Working Group and Standing Committee Drafting Group on eels. We support the adoption of the resolution. The resolution for all anguilla species will strengthen the international cooperation and will further progress work on the conservation and management of anguillate eels, as well as combating illegal trade. On the decision presented in the document, we would like to take this opportunity to propose some amendments. We have 3 points. Firstly, we can support the amendments made by the Secretariat on page 7 of the document. Secondly, we would like to add some text on illegal trade and enforcement to decision 20AA and 20CC as contained in Annex 1, as the resolution also covers these issues. We would like to propose the following additions. On Decision 20AA directed to the parties, we would like to add at the very end a comma followed by as well as information on illegal trade and enforcement. Then on the Decision 20CC directed to the Secretariat, on Subdecision A, to issue a notification, we would like to add at the very end, comma, as well as information on illegal trade and enforcement. Thirdly, in Annex 1 on Decision 20DD directed to the Animals Committee, we are concerned with Decision 20DDB, which reads, explore options to facilitate discerning between farmed and wild European eels in CITES trade data. We are concerned as it's clear that all European eels raised in aquaculture also originate from the wild. A distinction in source code might give the wrong impression that it has a lesser or different impact on the population in the wild. Therefore, we cannot support this decision and we would like to propose to delete it. We support the resolution, and as we hear back from the room that other parties are willing to alter the text of the resolution, the EU and its member state would like to propose some amendments on enforcement in paragraph 2b. With your permission, I can share it. And I would like to say that we can agree on the other edits just now presented by the United States and China. Thank you.
I think you can go ahead with the sharing your amendments to the resolution as well.
We would like to insert a new paragraph 2 that would actually include the current paragraph 2b. So we would like to take out paragraph subdecision 2b, or paragraph I must say, excuse me, 2b, and in front of it, so it would be number 2, and it would read, urges parties in which illegal harvest or trade of anguillate eel species occurs to strengthen, and then 2b comes, to strengthen existing measures that safeguard the effective implementation of the Convention, ensuring that the trade in CITES-listed anguillate eels is legal, sustainable, and traceable. And then the current paragraph 2 becomes paragraph 3, just without the current part 2b. I hope that's clear. Thank you, Chair.
I think we got that. So thank you very much. Is that all the changes, European Union?
Oh, am I forgetting? Yes. Yes.
Good. So I have now Canada. Canada, you have the floor.
Merci. Donc le Canada souhaite remercier le président ainsi que les membres du groupe de travail pour tous leurs efforts ayant permis de faire progresser le projet de résolution jusqu'à ce stade. Le Canada appuie la version du projet de résolution et les décisions convenues au sein de la 78e session du comité permanent. Le projet de résolution offre une opportunité de promouvoir une action collective, la coopération internationale et le partage de bonnes pratiques relatives au commerce international de l'anguille entre les États de l'aire de répartition et les partenaires commerciaux.
Thank you, Canada. I now have Japan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Japan supports the adoption of the resolution based on the view that all effort towards the conservation and management of eel resources should be encouraged to eliminate illegal trade and advance scientific activities. We already received a lot of comments and suggestions on the draft resolution, and the situation is a little bit complicated. Therefore, Japan proposed to establish the working group to brush up the resolution, and so that we can adopt it by consensus. And Japan proposed to establish the working group during the session to work on the text. Regarding the contents of the draft resolution, Japan would like to suggest two amendments. First suggestion is related to paragraph 12 of the preamble part, which refers to the difficulties in identification among different angular eel species. Japan, Korea, Canada have provided information about practical species identification method of grass eels at field level and information about development of rapid species DNA identification kits. Therefore, Japan would like to make following suggestions. First one is line 1, before difficulties. Japan would like to add certain. Before the difficulties in first line, Japan would like to add certain. In the second line, after derivatives, Japan would like to delete remaining all words. Instead, include following wording. However, grass eels are morphologically identifiable, and rapid DNA identification technologies have been developed. I'll repeat the inserting words. However, grass eels are morphologically identifiable, and rapid DNA identification technologies have been developed. Second suggestion is related to the operative paragraph 3 about ranting. And Japan would like to delete the operative paragraph 3 about ranting. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. I've heard also your call for an in-session working group. Depending on how many parties we will have, we can also have that as a drafting group, depending on how many parties will make additional changes. So it may require to have an in-session working group with all these changes that we see now. I see Tanzania. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania commends the animal and standing committees, as well as the Secretariat for their extensive intercessional work on the conservation, management, and trade and monitoring of anguillid eels. Tanzania has a range to 3 eel species. It recognizes that anguillid eels are globally threatened by over-exploitation, illegal trade, and habitat loss, and appreciates the proposal to strengthen international cooperation and improve species-level monitoring across the genus. Therefore, Tanzania supports the adoption of the resolution presented in this document and the deletion of the decisions 19.218 to 19.221, and we would like to also to show support for the various edits that have been presented here, as long as they remain within the confines of the anguills that are already listed under CITES. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanzania. Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Мы бы хотели поддержать Китай в их предложении по дополнению параграфа 8. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. India proposes that the matter may be referred to an inter-session working group for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for that support. I think that's what we will be doing. I see United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair. We've been listening with interest to the interventions made so far, and these build on the fruitful discussions that we had in the Standing Committee Working Group and at Standing Committee itself on this item. As we've noted in our previous comments on Proposal 35, we recognise that there are common issues for the sustainable management and use of these species, and therefore there is a need for international collaboration given the wide-ranging species and panmatic populations. We support taking forward the draft decisions and draft resolution. With regard to the comments of other parties, we can support the comments of the US, China, and EU, except for the deletion of decision 20DD(a). As regards to the comments from Japan, we don't support the deletion of operational paragraph 3 outright, and can support the US wording there instead. And note that a number of parties have requested an in-session working group. We would also support that just so we can ensure all these additional edits can be considered together. Thank you.
Thank you, UK. United States.
Thank you, Chair. The United States very much appreciates the constructive dialogue here. In the spirit of cooperation, we would like to indicate our support for the amendments proposed by the European Union, and that we can accept the edits proposed by China, as well as the first edit proposed by Japan. It seems that, in fact, Mr. Chair, we believe we could rather easily reach consensus here in committee, perhaps with a discussion focused on the two conflicting amendments on the operative paragraph on ranching from ourselves and Japan, as opposed to having to take this to an in-session working group. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. Well, I'm afraid this will be difficult because we also have to call for deletion of a whole paragraph where we don't agree yet, and I think it would be good to reach agreement there, and I don't know how we will achieve that. So I call on Australia.
Thank you, Chair. We echo the intervention made by the United Kingdom. We agree with the changes made by the United States, the EU and China, but we do not agree with the deletion of decision 20DDB. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia. As I don't see no more parties asking for the floor, I would like to open the floor for AGOs and NGOs. I see IUCN has asked for the floor.
Thank you, Chair. This intervention is given on behalf of IUCN, Traffic and ZSL. We'd like to provide one or two clarifications before presenting our attended intervention. It was stated that only the European eel is listed in CITES, but the American eel has now been put forward for listing in Appendix 3. It was also stated that glass eels are morphologically distinct between species, but this is only true for some species, not all. On the resolution and decisions in this draft document, we are pleased to see a number of important points, and importantly, they account for the entire genus. Firstly, anguillid eels are a shared resource, and it is essential that conservation enforcement efforts are coordinated within and between range states, trade parties, and other actors. This has been repeatedly raised in the reports to CITES relating to these species as an area that needs strengthening. Secondly, it is fundamental to ensure harvest and trade is sustainable, and there are very few publicly available assessments that evidence this. Due to its complex life cycle, eels are not only impacted by fisheries, and it's important that other threats to the species are included when assessing harvest and trade. Finally, understanding the impacts of reintroducing seized eels into the wild is essential. The evidence for benefits at the population level for moving eels from one location to another, sometimes referred to as restocking or stock enhancement, is limited and often location-specific, and it may do more harm than good, despite it often being promoted as a conservation measure. As such, it is important to ensure that any seizures returned to the wild do not impact existing populations. We would urge parties and other stakeholders to commit to a strong resolution and implement it accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, IUCN. I now give the floor to WildTech DNA.
Thank you, Chair. As CEO of WildTech DNA, I would like to provide information relevant to document 87 on Anguilla species. As noted in the draft resolution and its preamble, a long-standing challenge for effective management and enforcement is the difficulty in identifying angulid eels across life stages, specimen types, and between species. We would also highlight that the Anguilla genus itself can be difficult to visually distinguish from other eel genera, especially when traded as glass eels or processed products. These challenges contribute to mixed or mislabeled shipments and complicate implementation on the ground. To support parties facing these issues, our organisation has developed an ultra-rapid, truly portable, low-cost DNA lateral flow test that can identify Rostrata, Japonica, and Anguilla on a single strip, as well as multiple other CITES-listed species, with results in under 15 minutes and without laboratory equipment or specialised training. It is designed specifically for frontline use in ports, markets, and inspection points where timely, inexpensive verification is essential. As parties consider the genus-wide resolution and associated draft decisions, the need for accessible genetic detection tools at both genus and species level may increase. Our technology is one such option currently available for enforcement authorities. We offer this information neutrally to support parties' understanding of existing tools. We are available for demonstrations throughout the COP. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I now see the European Union.
Thank you, Chair, for giving us the floor again. We would just like to echo the last call of the United States that we feel also that we can resolve a slightly revised resolution here in the room. We are so close. We can support, as said, the changes, the added suggested by the United States and China. We can also support the first added by Japan. We would not suggest to delete paragraph 3, but rather support the suggestion of the United States on that paragraph. So all in all, we feel that we can resolve it here in the room. Thank you.
Okay, I will give it a try in that case. If we have agreement on almost all changes proposed, we have in the paragraph that which one is being deleted?
Paragraph 3 is to delete this one and move it up there.
No. Okay, we had a new paragraph 3 proposed by, I think, the United States that Japan didn't feel comfortable with. No, we had the old one that Japan didn't feel comfortable with. We have now that new paragraph 3, and I will read it out so that maybe Japan can reflect whether they would be willing to accept this as a compromise. It reads, urges parties, due to limited understanding of the stock recruitment relationship for CITES-listed eel species, to not authorize exports, re-exports, or imports of eel with source code R ranching unless there is sufficient scientific evidence that the definition of ranching as included in Resolution Conf 1116 Ref CoP15 is met, including requirements for NDFs. So that would be the new paragraph 3, and I would like to ask Japan if they can agree on this new wording. I see Japan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your clarification, and Japan is happy to accept US suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have one last speaker that I will give the floor to, which is Wildlife Justice Commission, just as a last speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The Wildlife Justice Commission strongly supports the adoption of the draft resolution on trade, conservation, and management of all eel species. Our investigations show that the illegal trade in eels is highly lucrative and driven by sophisticated organized criminal networks who manage the entire supply chain, transporting live eels over long journeys with advanced refrigeration and oxygenation systems, highlighting the scale and complexity of this criminal activity. We welcome that the draft resolution covers all anguillid eel species, including non-CITES listed species, as our findings demonstrate that criminal networks actively exploit species-specific gaps. As colleagues mentioned, eel species are extremely difficult to distinguish, especially as juveniles or in processed form, and traffickers take advantage of this by shifting between species to evade detection. Traffickers have turned to American and Japanese eels as European eels become scarcer, trade multiple species simultaneously, and misdeclare European eels as non-listed species, intensifying pressure across all eel populations. This comprehensive scope is therefore essential to closing loopholes and ensuring a coherent enforcement response. We particularly support the recommendations under paragraph 2 of the draft resolution for parties across the supply chain to enact stronger legislation and enforcement measures, improve implementation of the convention, and enhance interagency, regional, and international cooperation. This is essential to build the capacity and expertise needed to meet enforcement challenges and effectively disrupt criminal networks across global supply chains. We support additional language on illegal trade and enforcement in decisions as proposed by the European Union. While we would have strongly welcomed the adoption of Proposal 35, we now urge the COP to adopt a strong draft resolution to strengthen enforcement and promote coordinated efforts to curb illegal trade in all eel species. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. So I think we have agreement on the changes on the resolution, but to be absolutely clear, I think I have to read out the resolution or only changes? No. I only will indicate the changes. Huh? Okay. So in the preambular, we have the second concerned. It was concerned that listed anguillid eel species are known to have been trafficked contrary to the requirements of the convention, undermining anguillid eel conservation. We now have concerns that anguillid eels are illegally traded on a global scale, driving declines in eel populations and the economic value for the legal eel trade, as well as undermining anguillid eel conservation. That was a proposal by the United States. Then also in the preambular, we have in the section on acknowledging. It now reads, acknowledging the certain difficulties in identification among different anguillid species across life stages and specimen types, including parts and derivatives, point. However, glass eels are morphologically identifiable and rapid DNA ID technologies have been developed. That was an addition by Japan. Then in the operative part, we have the first, the urges is changed to recommends on paragraph 1. Then in paragraph 2, we have the section B. So letter B is moved down into a new paragraph, and in the actual paragraph D, we have the change for that it reads now, best practice for addressing illegal trade of anguillid species, to be in line with the way we formulated it. And then we have that new paragraph that contains the ancient B to read, urges parties in which illegal harvest or trade of anguillid species occurs to strengthen existing measures that safeguard the effective implementation of the Convention so that trade in CITES-listed anguillid eels is legal, sustainable, and traceable. That was an addition by the EU. Then we have a new, the new number, previous number 3, urges parties due to limited understanding of the stock recruitment relationship for CITES-listed eel species to not authorize export, re-exports, or imports of eels with source code R, ranging, unless there is sufficient scientific evidence that the definition of ranging as included in Resolution Conf 1116 Ref CoP20 is met, including requirements for NDFs. Then we have a change in the paragraph 8. Invites parties to provide information to the Secretariat on the implementation of this resolution relating to CITES-listed anguillid species and, where available, other anguillid species. These are all the changes that have been approved by the parties. So I think with the resolution we are set. I don't see anybody taking the floor. So, but now we have to go to the decisions. I think in the decisions we also have had some changes. So we have in the first 20 AA directed to parties and relevant stakeholders, we had at the end a comma, as well as information on illegal trade and enforcement. That was a proposal by the EU. Under 20CC, the Secretariat shall, A, there also at the end of this A paragraph, a comma, and it continues, as well as information on illegal trade and enforcement. That one also proposed by the EU. Then there was the proposal by the EU to delete paragraph B in decision directed to the animals 20DD. The animals committee shall B, explore options to facilitate discerning between European eels raised in aquaculture and wild European eels in CITES trade data. So the EU proposes deletion of that decision, and that's it. So if you are not in agreement with these changes, please take the floor so that we can see if we have to discuss this again. Okay, United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thanks, Chair. Just to reiterate the point from earlier that we would rather retain 20DD little b in the decisions. And can I just have one clarification on the resolution as well? The addition of the word certain, whereabouts was that again in the preambular paragraphs?
That's under acknowledging the certain difficulties in identification among different anguillid eel species. No, it is acknowledging certain difficulties in identification.
Okay, thank you, that makes more sense.
Makes more sense. Okay, now I have Australia.
Thank you, Chair. We can agree to the proposed changes to 20AA and 20CC, but we still would prefer to keep 20DD subparagraph B. Thank you.
I mean, the wording is quite soft, so it reads explore options to facilitate. So it's not recognizing that there is that this is in principle possible. So it's really exploring options if you can do that, because it is still a different system. It hasn't been defined as being ranching, but it's a different way of offtake from species from the wild. And if you would have the option to discern this from the catch of adult eels, that would be quite helpful, I think, in making analysis of the impact of trade on these eels. So I don't see big harm in this, but maybe the EU can explain more in detail why they are opposed to this paragraph, which is quite soft. So EU, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as explained, our concern is that it is clear that all European eels, although they're raised in aquaculture, also originate from the wild. And so a distinction in source code might give the wrong impression, and it has a lesser or different impact on the population in the wild. So that's our concern. But we must say we appreciate the cooperative spirit, and we can agree on retaining this decision, but we do hope parties understand our concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, European Union, for your help here, for your understanding. So thank you very much. I still see New Zealand. Was this on that topic? But now that we have reached a consensus, I hope you will be able to support that as well. New Zealand?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do support that, but just wondering whether we need clarification that we're talking about directly from the wild, rather than raising the issue that you were concerned about, and the EU's just raised now, that we want to be able to tell between ranch specimens and those taken directly from the wild.
Well, I would prefer to keep it like that because we have now reached an agreement. So if you, with your indulgence, we would want to keep it the way it is. We have now a consensus, and that I think we will keep that. Thank you very much, New Zealand. I see you nodding. Good, perfect. Okay. So we also have reached a consensus on the decisions. I don't think I have to read them out again. I think it's clear what we have decided. So I take it that the Committee 1 agrees on the resolution as amended by China, United States, the EU, and Japan, as well as on the decisions as amended by the EU. And also we agree on the deletion of decisions 19218 to 19221. So thank you very much. That closes the debate on COP Doc 87 on eels. And now we can move over to other marine species proposals. So the first one is COP20 Proposal 36 on Actinopegia echinites, Actinopegia mauritania, A. miliaris, A. varians, Lecanora, and Palauensis, sea cucumbers. The proposal is to include these species into Appendix 2. The proponent is the EU, and I would give the floor to the EU to introduce that proposal. You have the floor.
Monsieur le Président. Oui, c'est bon. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je m'exprime au nom de l'Union européenne et de ses 27 États membres pour vous présenter la proposition 36 visant à inscrire 6 espèces du genre Actinopiga à l'annexe 2. 4 espèces remplissent le critère B de l'annexe 2A de la résolution Conf 9.24 Ref CoP 17, conformément à l'article 2, paragraphe 2A de la Convention, du fait de leur vulnérabilité biologique au prélèvement, des preuves de déclin dues au commerce international et à la demande croissante. Il s'agit d'Actinopiga echinites, Actinopiga miliaris, Actinopiga mauritiana et Actinopiga varians. 2 autres espèces identifiées répondent au critère A de l'annexe 2B de la même résolution, Actinopiga lecanora et Actinopiga palauensis, en tant qu'espèces similaires. La référence taxonomique qui a été utilisée pour cette proposition est Worms, et le genre Actinopiga comprend 18 espèces. Cela signifie que notre proposition ne concerne pas l'ensemble du genre, mais uniquement les 4 espèces menacées par le commerce international et 2 espèces comme espèces similaires. Ces 6 espèces sont très similaires en forme commerciale, c'est-à-dire séchées, mais elles sont également difficiles à distinguer en forme fraîche. Il existe un guide d'identification des loturies produit par la France qui a été distribué lors de la COP 19 qui peut aider les parties à cet égard. Ces 6 espèces jouent un rôle important dans la région Indo-Pacifique parmi les nombreux invertébrés pêchés depuis plus de 1000 ans. Leur exploitation a augmenté au cours des 25 dernières années et répond à la demande croissante des marchés internationaux en quête de concombres de mer. Les 4 espèces visées pour les critères biologiques sont des espèces de concombres de mer de valeur moyenne qui ont été soumises à une pression de récolte accrue au cours des dernières décennies en raison de l'épuisement des espèces de concombres de mer de plus grande valeur sous l'effet de la demande internationale comme mer affinée qu'est le bêche de mer, principalement en Asie. Il existe peu de surveillance des captures au niveau des espèces et celles-ci sont principalement déclarées dans le commerce sous le nom de concombres de mer, principalement en raison de leur valeur moyenne. Cependant, ces 4 espèces d'Actinopiga, qui se trouvent à des profondeurs très faibles, inférieures à 10 mètres, sont faciles à capturer à l'aide de méthodes de pêche simples et font souvent partie des principales espèces ciblées par les pêcheries. Les 4 espèces ont été classées comme vulnérables avec la tendance à la baisse de leur population dans les évaluations de la liste rouge UNICEN de 2010 et connaissent actuellement un déclin de 30 à 40% de leur population en raison de l'épuisement des stocks et de la surexploitation continue, principalement due au commerce international. Dans certaines parties de leur aire de répartition, on estime que les populations de ces 4 espèces ont diminué de plus de 60%, 60 à 90% depuis les années 1960. Leurs stocks ont probablement aussi beaucoup diminué depuis la dernière évaluation de la liste rouge de 2010. En raison du manque de données chronologiques fiables, les déclins déduits de plusieurs espèces spécifiques à certains sites, comme dans la mer Rouge égyptienne, des déclins ont également été observés dans de nombreux endroits de l'océan Indien et de l'océan Pacifique, avec l'extinction commerciale d'Actinopyga equinites et Actinopyga miliaris dans certains endroits des Fidji. La durée de vie de ces espèces s'étend probablement sur plusieurs décennies et malgré un taux de productivité probablement modéré à élevé, les populations ont mis du temps à se reconstituer après leur épuisement. Comme la plupart des concombres de mer, ces espèces jouent un rôle important dans leurs écosystèmes et régulent la qualité de l'eau en creusant les sédiments et en recyclant les nutriments. Certaines études ont établi un lien entre le statut de conservation favorable des concombres de mer et la résilience des récifs coralliens au blanchiment. Leur surexploitation induit donc un effet en cascade négatif dans l'écosystème. Les pêcheries de ces 4 espèces constituent une source importante de revenus pour les communautés locales. Il est donc urgent de mettre en place une gestion durable de leurs stocks, non seulement pour préserver les populations de ces espèces, mais aussi pour soutenir les moyens de subsistance de nombreuses communautés locales côtières. L'inscription à l'annexe 2 permettrait également d'obtenir des données de surveillance cruciales au niveau des espèces qui fait actuellement défaut. Par mesure de précaution, nous invitons donc les parties à soutenir la proposition et à adopter la référence standard adoptée pour Actinopyga spp, qui est Worms, telle qu'elle figure à l'annexe 1 de la proposition. Je souhaiterais ajouter, Monsieur le Président, que suite aux commentaires et demandes des États de l'aire de répartition, nous proposons, en plus de la présente proposition, un report de 18 mois, ce qui signifie 15 mois après les 3 mois ordinaires, pour la mise en œuvre, afin de disposer de suffisamment de temps pour préparer l'inscription, notamment pour réaliser des évaluations de commerce non préjudiciable et résoudre les éventuels problèmes techniques ou administratifs. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, your opinion. So we have now an amended proposal which includes an 18-month delay for entry into force of that listing, eventual listing. We don't know yet. Okay, so thank you very much. So I would now open the floor to parties for comments on this proposal. I see Papua New Guinea.
Thank you, Chair, for giving Papua New Guinea time again to speak. PNG would like to present its position on the proposal for list the Sigagumba species proposal 36 on Actinopyga. Chair, PNG has undertaken extensive national assessments of this species and has carefully considered the conclusion of the FAO expert panel based on scientific data from 2010 spanning back to 2024 current. Our multi-year national survey shows that these species remain stable or are recovering and meet the biological criteria required for Appendix 2 listing. This is fully consistent with the FAO expert panel, which also did not recommend that their inclusion. For these reasons, PNG strongly believes that the Actinopyga species should be removed from the proposed listing. Chair, PNG has strong management measures for Sikagumbas, including multi-year moratoria, strict TSC controls, size limits, site-specific openings, and newly modernized management plans. We remain committed to science-based and precautionary management. The species are medium to low valued and does not pose any threat. Therefore, Chair, Papua New Guinea does not support the listing of the Actinopyga species as they do not meet the required CITES criteria. We kindly request that this position be noted in the deliberations of the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Papua New Guinea. Now we have Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Japan would like to thank the proponent for preparing this proposal, which has drawn attention to the need for the strengthened fisheries management for sea cucumbers. However, as one of the range states of the species, Japan does not support this proposal for the following reasons. First, Japan considers that this proposal is not based on sufficient scientific information. Both FAO and the CITES Secretariat have concluded that the proposal does not meet the CITES listing criteria, and Japan believes that this proposal is not supported by the robust scientific evidence. Second, it is important for range states of sea cucumber species to manage their sea cucumber fisheries sustainably in their own sustainable manner. Imposing international trade restriction through CITES listing could negatively affect a number of small-scale fisheries, as also noted by the FAO expert advisory panel. In Japan, sea cucumber fisheries are managed under the Fisheries Act. Third, in Japan, sea cucumber are properly managed from catch to distribution. Some sea cucumber fisheries are regulated under the Fisheries Act, and a traceability system is established under relevant fisheries registration. Thus, Japan believes that restriction under CITES is not needed. For those reasons, Japan does not support the proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Japan. I have now Togo.
Bien, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Le Togo remercie les auteurs de cette proposition qui porte à inscrire les concombres de mer à l'annexe 2. Mais après analyse de cette proposition et se fondant sur l'examen réalisé par le secrétariat de la CITES, nous proposons le rejet de cette proposition. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Togo. Saudi Arabia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We would like to thank the European Union for their efforts to prepare this proposal and its objective of strengthening the conservation of marine resources. However, after careful consideration, the document presents clear shortcomings, including a lack of comprehensive and up-to-date data on stock status and trends, reliance on heterogeneous and non-comparable sources, and significant disparities in national legal and enforcement frameworks. With insufficient assessment of the effectiveness of existing management measures. In light of these concerns, we believe the proposal does not yet provide a sufficiently robust scientific and administrative basis to justify the proposed listing, and therefore we recommend that it's not to be adopted at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Saudi Arabia. Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia opposed Proposal 36 to include Actinopiga spp in Appendix 2 due to several reasons. First, the genus as a whole does not meet the biological or trait criteria required for Appendix 2. CITES listing must be evidence-based, and in this case, the data presented do not demonstrate that international trade is threatening the survival of the species. Second, the justification based on lookalike consideration is not compelling. Actinopiga species are morphologically distinct, and expanding listing at the genus level risks undermining the precision and credibility of CITES. Third, we note that several parties have highlighted inconsistencies and errors in the proposal's data. Such inaccuracies weaken the scientific foundation of the listing and raise concern about precedent setting for future proposals. Finally, we emphasize that genus level listings without clear necessity may impose disproportionate burdens on parties, particularly those with sustainable management practices, while diverting attention from species that are genuinely at risk. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now I have the United States. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States is a range state for several Actinopyga species considered for inclusion in Appendix 2 and supports this proposal, as we found these species would meet the CITES listing criteria based on the best available science. And we believe their inclusion will help ensure sustainable and legal trade in these species. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. Tanzania commends the proponents of the proposal for putting it together. However, we do not support the proposal inclusion in Appendix 2 at this time. Chair, basing on the FAO's conclusion of insufficient data, it makes it impossible to establish valid NDFs. Tanzania stresses that premature listing may harm coastal livelihoods and undermine local conservation incentives. Therefore, Tanzania supports continued research, regional management, and data sharing to strengthen a sustainable trade system. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanzania. Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Актуальных данных по численности этих видов недостаточно, чтобы судить о ее реальном снижении по всему ареалу, а не только в населенных участках ареала, где действительно идет интенсивная добыча, в связи с чем требуются дополнительные данные до принятия решения. Спасибо.
Thank you. China.
Thank you, Chair. China agrees with the Secretary's assessment, which conclude that there is no sufficient evidence to support the listing of the taxa. China therefore opposes the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. UAE.
Thank you, Chair. The UAE aligns itself with the position of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Thank you. Congo.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous remercions les auteurs de cette proposition. Cependant, nous nous opposons à cette proposition. Merci.
Philippines.
Thank you, Chair. The Philippines do not support the proposal. Inclusion of Actinopyga species in the Appendix 2 could affect the dried lookalike sea cucumber species, especially in international trade. Moreover, Mr. Chair, the effect would be on the reduction of considerable source of income of small-scale fishers throughout the archipelago. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Philippines. Oman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oman does not support the proposal to include the Actinopyga species in Appendix 2 of CITES. While we are recognized concern about the regional decline, current data remain limited, fragmented, and insufficient to justify a global listing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now I have Benin. Benin, you have the floor.
Okay. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Bénin voudrait joindre sa voix à celle des autres pays du groupe africain pour dire qu'il ne soutient pas cette proposition. En effet, à l'analyse des données, nous arrivons à la conclusion que nous n'avons pas encore assez de données suffisantes pour pouvoir arriver à cette inscription et nous sommes arrivés donc au consensus que nous ne pouvons pas soutenir cette proposition. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Well, I'm slowly getting a sense of the room, so I will take 4 more parties and then I will close the speakers list. So I have Côte d'Ivoire.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci à l'Union européenne pour cette proposition. la Côte d'Ivoire, se basant sur le rapport du groupe de travail consultatif de la FAO et des conclusions du secrétariat de la CITES, s'oppose à l'adoption de cette proposition.
Thank you. I have Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Australia acknowledges the concerns of the EU regarding the conservation of sea cucumbers in trade and its proposal to increase protection for Actinopyga sea cucumbers. However, Australia is of the view this proposal does not meet the requirements of Criterion B of Annex 2A of Resolution Conf 9.24 Rev CoP17. Due to a lack of reliable time series population data available and some dated data sources, the basis of the proposal does not clearly demonstrate the Actinopyga species survival might be threatened by continued harvesting and other influences. As a range state for many sea cucumber species, including Actinopyga, Australia takes an evidence-based approach to its management. Actinopyga species are characterised as medium value and therefore are expected to have less fishing and trade pressure than high value species such as Holothurial lasoni and other CITES listed sea cucumbers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. I have Palau.
Thank you, Chair. Palau supports Secretariat's recommendation to reject the proposal. Thank you.
And the last speaker is Fiji. Fiji, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Fiji thanks the European Union for the preparation of this proposal. We also recognize that species of the genus are subject to increasing harvest pressure across the Indo-Pacific region due to international demand for beach dema. Fiji equally is concerned about the scientific assessment and national reports indicating the decline in population abundance, reduction in size classes, localized eradication, and the slow recovery rate associated with overharvesting. We also acknowledge the economic importance of sea cucumber in fisheries for coastal and rural communities, particularly in small island developing states. That includes Fiji, where they provide livelihood and support for food security. As said in the European Union intervention earlier, surveys in Fiji documented high densities of the sea cucumber brownfish in 2003, but by 2009, assessment recorded 0 individuals, signifying a severe population collapse, categorizing the species as critically depleted. With that, Mr. Chair, Fiji supports the proposal by the European Union to include them under Appendix 2. Thank you.
Okay, now I would like to open the floor to observers. I see WWF, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of WWF and another 9 organizations who strongly support Proposal 36 to include 6 Actinopyga sea cucumbers on Appendix 2. The details of those organizations have been given to the Secretariat. IUCN has assessed 4 commercially important species of Actinopyga sea cucumbers as vulnerable, while ongoing population declines of around 30 to 40% and historical depletions of 60 to 90% across much of their range since the 1960s. In several regions, stocks are described as collapsed or commercially extinct. These medium-value species have come under intense fishing pressure as high-value teatfish and sandfish populations declined due to overfishing. They occur in shallow, easily accessible habitats and have density-dependent reproduction, meaning that once populations are driven to low levels, recovery becomes very difficult. Illegal trade of sea cucumbers is also a serious problem. The proposal also documents serious identification and enforcement problems. 2 additional Actinopyga species are included as lookalikes because processed products are extremely hard to distinguish. In the light of this evidence, we urge parties to approve Proposal 36 so that international trade does not further undermine already depleted Actinopygia stocks and instead maintains the sea cucumber's important ecological role for future generations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, WWF. I now have Doualos. You have the floor.
Sorry, that's a mistake. It should be FAO.
Can I start? FAO?
Yes, you have the floor.
Sure.
You
Thank
can
you,
go ahead.
Chair. Okay. The FAO expert panel reviewed the proposal to list most of the genus Actinopyga, finding they have high inherent productivity, indicating they are species that have the potential to recover strongly from population declines. The evidence presented in the proposal offered no clear, empirically supported scientific data of widespread population declines. It relied on limited site-specific surveys or extrapolations from multi-species point density data, which were insufficient to infer regional or global population trends. Much of the information provided on population status and trade were limited and considered unreliable as a signal of population declines or trade pressures, particularly use of bêche de mer information, as the available trade data are both limited and not species-specific. The panel noted that informal and unreported trade is common, but the scale and impact remain unclear. The panel discussed the practicalities of species identification in trade. While some Actinopyga species are morphologically similar, there is evidence that identification is feasible in many cases and that the burden of a genus-wide listing would fall disproportionately on small-scale fishers and CITES certifying authorities in developing range states. The panel cautioned that such a listing could impose significant costs and potentially drive trade underground without delivering proportional conservation benefits. In conclusion, the expert panel determined that Proposal 36 does not meet the criteria for Appendix 2 and encourages parties to further invest in management and monitoring as a more effective approach to delivering a positive outcome for conservation of Actinopyga than a premature genus-wide listing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, FAO. And the last speaker is Queensland Sea Cucumber Association.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. As this is the first time taking the floor, we thank our host country, Uzbekistan, the Secretariat, and your work as Chair. On behalf of the Australian Sea Cucumber members through the Queensland Sea Cucumber Association, which has been sustainably fishing sea cucumber for over 35 years, we recognize that sea cucumbers can be susceptible to overfishing globally, but that does not mean it happens in all regions with all species. It is common for people to taint all sea cucumber with the same phrase without adequately viewing the scientific facts, as pointed out by FAO. The species in Proposal 36 are tropical, subtropical species, so most of the harvesting is done in low-income countries by local fishers. These are the people that need a sustainable source of income. We submit that the listings do not prevent trade in the sea cucumber species, as many of the harvesting and trade countries do not have adequate fisheries management support funding to issue NDFs and monitor or enforce the trade restriction. In our view, such listings only drive the trade underground and make it illegal. We believe that such countries as the European Union, led by France, rather than focus on CITES listings of sea cucumber, should focus on appropriate funding for their territories or low-income countries that do not have the funding to support adequate and effective fisheries management. The focus should be on preventing any overfishing or threat to the species, not on the after effects, post-harvest, of trade of the species. The FAO expert panel determined there is insufficient information to meet the criteria for Appendix 2 listing, so how would any of the low-income range states have the capacity to assess a non-detriment finding for these species, as they do not have sufficient science budgets to determine such a potentially complicated NDF process? We ask the committee to consider carefully the need for these species to be listed and maybe seek to consider in future other sea cucumber species that clearly meet the criteria for Appendix 2. We yield the floor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So with this, I would return to the European Union. You have heard the sense of the room, and I would like to ask the European Union how you want to proceed. So, European Union, you have the floor.
Merci Monsieur le Président, merci à toutes les parties qui se sont exprimées avec des critiques constructives et notamment sur les questions scientifiques. Ces critiques, d'une certaine façon, valident le contenu de la proposition dans la mesure où elle pointe le doigt sur le fait que sur les espèces de valeur moyenne, on a très peu de remontées à l'espèce et principalement à des groupes beaucoup plus larges qui permettent de ne pas évaluer de façon fine la situation. Nous nous sommes appuyés sur les meilleurs spécialistes et les meilleures références scientifiques pour réaliser cette proposition. C'est pour ça que nous sommes toujours sûrs de la valeur de cette proposition et nous souhaiterions, par un vote, connaître l'avis de toutes les parties présentes ici. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, European Union. That's what I thought, but I wanted to hear it from you. So very good. We will, I see New Zealand has asked for the floor. New Zealand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. When this item was introduced, the EU suggested they'd change implementation to 18 months. Would that be part of the consideration that we're voting on, or does that have to be a separate issue? Thank you.
Note with the introduction of the document, the EU proposed an 18-month delay, which is the new proposal that we are looking at. So we are looking at the proposal with an 18-month delay in implementation. Okay, so we will have to go for a vote. Please, all parties take a seat and don't walk around anymore. Can please the Secretariat staff make sure that there's no walking around anymore, that people are seated in their places? Indonesia is asking for the floor. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia requests for the vote of the proposal be taken with secret ballot. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. So a party is asking for it to be a secret ballot, and based on the rules of procedure, I need to have 10 parties who second that motion to have a secret ballot. So if you are supporting that secret ballot, you can press your button now, and I will then read out the parties who have been in support of this motion. Okay, I have Japan. Okay, now you please keep your buttons pressed. It's good now. You can leave your buttons as pressed. You don't have to press anything anymore. So we have Japan, Palau, Panama, St. Lucia, Tonga, Sri Lanka, El Salvador, Laos, Gabon, Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, and Grenada. Okay. So this is a vote for proposal 36 to include the species Actinopegia echinites, Actinopegia mauritiana, Actinopegia miliaris, and Actinopegia varians, Actinopegia lecanora, and Actinopegia palauensis in Appendix 2 with an 18-month delay in implementation of this listing. The voting type is by secret ballot. The vote of the European Union will be cast by the delegation of the EU. Since this is a vote on a proposal for amendment of Appendix 1 and 2, the decision will be adopted by a 2/3 majority. Technicians, are you ready? Okay. So parties, you have now 40 seconds to cast your vote. The ballot is open now. Okay, you can display the results on the screen. So with 50 votes in favor, 76 against, and 9 abstentions, proposal CoP20 Prop 36 on the 6 species of Actinopegia to include the 6 species of Actinopegia in Appendix 2 was rejected. United States of America.
In the spirit of transparency and as is our custom, the United States declares that in this secret ballot, it voted in support of the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. That will be noted accordingly. UK.
Thank you, Chair. In the spirit of transparency, the UK would like to note that they supported the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, UK. European Union.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In the spirit of transparency, the European Union would also like to note that it voted in favor of the proposal.
Thank you, European Union. And finally, Fiji.
Thank you, Chair. In the spirit of transparency, Fiji would also like to declare that it voted in favor of this proposal.
Thank you, Fiji. So before moving to the next proposal, I would just like to note for the committee that the proposal 39 that has been submitted by South Africa will be treated only on next week, probably on Tuesday, at the request of South Africa. So we will now have proposal 37, and then we will move to proposal 28. Okay, with this, I open the document CoP20 Proposal 37 on Holothuria lesoni to include this species in Appendix 2. This proposal has been submitted by the European Union, so I give the floor to the European Union to introduce that proposal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je m'exprime au nom de l'Union européenne et de ses 27 États membres pour vous présenter la proposition 37 visant à inscrire l'espèce Holothuria lesoni à l'annexe 2. L'espèce répond aux critères B de l'annexe 2A de la résolution conf 9.24 FCOP17, conformément à l'article 2, paragraphe 2A de la Convention, en raison de son état de conservation défavorable et de la tendance à la baisse de sa population, due au commerce international des concombres de mer séchés, un mets de luxe connu sous le nom de bêche de mer. Cette espèce est largement répandue dans la région Indo-Pacifique et présente dans plusieurs territoires d'outre-mer de l'Union européenne. Les concombres de mer font partie de nombreux invertébrés marins pêchés depuis plus de 1000 ans. Cependant, leur exploitation s'est intensifiée au cours des dernières décennies afin de répondre à la demande croissante du marché international des concombres de mer, principalement centré en Asie. Holoturia lessoni est particulièrement recherché pour son goût et son prix peut atteindre plus de 600 $ le kilogramme, soit plus que toute autre espèce sur les principaux marchés. Holoturia lessoni présente également un intérêt potentiel pour l'industrie pharmaceutique en raison de ses propriétés antibactériennes et antioxydantes. L'espèce a été classée comme en danger par la liste rouge de l'UICN en 2010 sur la base d'une estimation du déclin de la population mondiale de plus de 50% au cours des 30 à 50 dernières années en raison d'une exploitation non durable. Holoturia lessoni est vulnérable à la surpêche en raison de la facilité avec laquelle elle peut être capturée dans les habitats en eau peu profonde, de sa longévité supposée et de sa reproduction dépendante de la densité. Ces populations mettant du temps à se reconstituer après avoir été épuisées, bien qu'il s'agisse d'une espèce à productivité moyenne. La pêche est la principale cause de déclin des populations dans de nombreux États de l'aire de répartition, de nombreuses pêcheries connaissant des cycles d'expansion et de récession caractérisés par des captures intensives suivies d'un effondrement. L'extinction de l'espèce s'est également produite à certains endroits. Bien que la majorité des données sur les captures et les exportations ne soient pas communiquées au niveau des espèces, certains États d'aire de répartition, tels que l'Indonésie, les îles Salomon et les Seychelles, exportent Holoturia lessoni. Un rapport de la FAO publié en 2023 a conclu que l'espèce était largement signalée comme surexploitée. Comme les autres holoturies, Holoturia lessoni joue un rôle important dans l'écosystème. Ces espèces régulent la qualité de l'eau en creusant les sédiments et en recyclant les nutriments. Certaines études ont établi un lien entre le statut de conservation favorable des holoturies et la résilience des récifs coralliens au processus de blanchiment. Leur surexploitation induit donc un effet cascade négatif dans l'écosystème. Cette espèce est facile à identifier, même sous sa forme séchée. Encore une fois, le guide d'identification CITES des concombres de mer produit par la France pour la COP 2019 peut aider les parties à cet égard. Les données biologiques et commerciales démontrent clairement qu'Holoturia lessoni devrait être inscrit à l'annexe 2 de la CITES. Cela permettra aux États de l'aire de répartition de gérer durablement les populations et de contrôler le commerce international, soutenant ainsi les moyens de subsistance de nombreux pêcheurs locaux tout en préservant l'espèce et son rôle écologique important afin de répondre aux besoins des générations futures. Nous invitons donc les parties à soutenir la proposition, y compris la référence de nomenclature WORMS proposée pour Holoturia lessoni, telle que fournie à l'annexe 1 de la proposition. Et comme pour la proposition précédente, suite aux commentaires des États de l'aire de répartition, nous proposons un report de 18 mois au lieu de 3 mois pour la mise en œuvre afin de disposer suffisamment de temps pour préparer l'inscription, notamment pour réaliser des évaluations de commerce non préjudiciables et de résoudre les éventuels problèmes techniques ou administratifs. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, European Union. So we have now an amended proposal. The proposal has been amended to enter into force only 18 months. 18 months after the COP, so that parties have the possibility to adapt to that new listing. I now open the floor to parties to comment on that proposal. I see Japan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'd like to thank the proponent for raising awareness of the necessity to properly conserve and manage this species. However, with the previous listing proposal, Japan does not support this proposal for the following reasons. First, as stated during the discussion on Proposal 36, Japan believed that it is more important for range state of sea cucumber species to manage their fisheries in their own sustainable manner rather than imposing international trade restrictions through CITES listing. In addition, the FAO expert advisory panel noted that if the listing were to be adopted, appropriate support would be necessary to help range states comply with CITES requirements, as well as to assist affected fisheries in transiting to alternative livelihoods. Japan supports this point and considers that this species should not be listed unless the proponent or CITES provides sufficient support to the range states. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Japan. I have now Canada. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Canada supports this proposal to include the golden sandfish on Appendix 2. The species has undergone population declines due to overexploitation with evidence of local extirpations and limited recovery. The species meets the criteria for listing, and Canada recognizes the value of the targeted approach to include this species in Appendix 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Zimbabwe makes this statement on behalf of the Africa Group. Chair, Africa notes Proposal 28 on the proposed transfer from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1 on the white-tip shark and recommends that this proposal...
Sorry, Zimbabwe, I think you are on the wrong proposal. We are not at the on the white-tip shark yet. So we are on sea cucumbers on proposal 37.
Apologies, we are supporting the proposal.
Thank you very much, Zimbabwe. So now I have Fiji.
Thank you, Chair. Fiji supports Proposal 37 to include Holothuria lesoni to Appendix 2. The proposal provides a clear rationale demonstrating that this species has undergone widespread depletion across much of its range, with repeated patterns of overharvesting and slow or negligible recovery. Its biological characteristics, including density-dependent reproduction and slow rebuilding rates, mean that unregulated international trade continues to pose a direct risk to the species' survival. Just for context, 2 months ago, we had a case of unregulated or unauthorized attempt to transfer or trade some of these species back home. Although this is our Schedule 1 listed item, the bust at the early hours of the morning showed the large attempts of continued illegal trade, and largely for the interest of particular markets. Appendix 2 listing for us will introduce the necessary safeguards we need, requiring the scientific-based export assessments, and also enables imports and exporting parties to better monitor and manage trade. This measure is consistent with the Convention's preventative mandate, and the evidence shows it's warranted at this time. We welcome the recommended change from the EU for 18-month delayed implementation, which will allow parties sufficient time to complete the necessary NDF. For countries like Fiji, this species is already listed in our Schedule 1, which is complete no trade. Fiji supports the adoption of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiji. I now have Tanzania. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania would like to support this proposal on a precautionary basis, since we are also a range state. So we would like to support its precautionary inclusion in Appendix 2 based on the fact that the listings aligns with the Article 2, Paragraph 2, little a, and Criterion B of Annex 2A of Resolution Conf 9.24, revision of COP17. COP17. Tanzania advocates, however, for a balanced approach that promotes both sustainable use and conservation of sea cucumber resources. Moreover, we need to emphasize that there is a need for technical and financial support to facilitate the implementation of monitoring and control systems And the inclusion of 18 months delay in implementation is a welcome consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanzania. I have now Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Australia supports the proposal and agrees Holothurial lysoni meets the requirements for listing. As a range state, we appreciate the EU's generous agreement to an 18-month implementation delay, which will ensure that there is sufficient time to conduct appropriate consultation with Indigenous peoples, fisheries managers, scientists and industry to develop a comprehensive NDF. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia. India.
Thank you, Chair. The species is already listed in our Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. India supports this proposal to include Holothurial lysoni in Appendix 2. Thank you.
Thank you, India. Benin.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Bénin voulait également joindre sa voix à celle des autres pays du groupe africain qui sont déjà exprimés pour dire que nous soutenons cette proposition sur la base d'un consensus que nous avons eu au sein de notre groupe et en étudiant attentivement les données scientifiques qui ont été produites pour soutenir la proposition. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Benin. Sénégal.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Le Sénégal, au même titre que le Bénin et les autres pays qui se sont prononcés en faveur de cette proposition, soutient cette proposition de l'Union européenne. Merci.
Thank you. Now I have Iran.
Thanks to European Union for preparing the proposal. Considering the conservation status of the species, Iran agrees with the proposal and supports that. Thank you.
Thank you, Iran. Dominican Republic.
Sí, gracias, señor presidente. República Dominicana apoya la propuesta.
I have two more parties. Côte d'Ivoire.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. À l'instar des autres membres du groupe africain, la Côte d'Ivoire soutient cette proposition.
Okay, I have several parties more, but I think I can close the list unless you would be in opposition to that proposal. So I have four more. I will allow them to take the floor and no others. So I have now the Maldives.
Thank you, Chair. Maldives would like to thank the European Union for the proposal. Maldives would like to support the proposal. These species are similar to species that are caught in the Maldives, and the delayed implementation period actually provides us with the opportunity to prepare for swift implementation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Maldives. Solomon Islands, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Solomon Islands acknowledge the proponent for this proposal. However, we go along with the notion that the proponent should have discussions with the range state of the species. Therefore, as a range state of the fishery, or the species in particular, feels uncomfortable in support of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon Islands. Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nigeria acknowledged the detailed analysis in the proposal presented by European Union. Nigeria supports the proposal. Thank you.
Now I open the floor to observers. I have FAO. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The FAO expert panel assessed Proposal 37, which seeks to include golden sandfish in Appendix 2. The expert panel found that golden sandfish is a median productivity species with evidence of localized severe declines across areas of its range, even some well-documented extirpations, the loss of the species in areas where it was previously recorded. While these localized factors alone would not typically meet Appendix 2 criteria for a broadly distributed species, the shallow water presence of the species, its high market value, and the natural rarity all add extra lines of evidence that together were considered sufficient to warrant taking a precautionary approach to listing the species, in the absence of comprehensive scientific data on the status of the species. The expert panel emphasized that an Appendix 2 listing will only provide conservation benefits if supported by strengthened stock assessment, management capacity, and support for affected communities, noting that coastal states are already struggling to implement CITES provisions for previously listed sea cucumber species. In conclusion, the expert panel agreed with Proposal's 37 suggestion that golden sandfish meets the criteria for Appendix 2. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, FAO. And one last is Center for Biological Diversity.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of the Center for Biological Diversity and 7 other organizations who strongly support Proposal 37 on the golden sandfish. IUCN has classified the golden sandfish as endangered due to an estimated global population decline of more than 50% over the last 30 to 50 years. This decline is driven by an unsustainable harvest, and fisheries show a classic boom and bust pattern: intensive extraction followed by local population collapse. The golden sandfish also is the most valuable tropical sea cucumber in the Hong Kong market, with recorded prices reaching about $850 per kilo, and now is described as scarce in shops. That combination of extreme value and scarcity is a clear warning sign that current levels of exploitation are not sustainable. The proposal complies evidence of severe declines and local extirpations across the species in the Pacific range. As FAO said, the global review has marked the species as widely overexploited, and the CITES Secretariat recommends its inclusion, recognizing its critical ecological role in maintaining reef sediments and nutrient recycling. Chair, this proposal is based in strong science demonstrating that the golden sandfish requires CITES oversight. We urge parties to adopt this Proposal 37. Thank you.
Thank you, Center for Biological Diversity. We have quite clear support. We almost have consensus on this proposal, so I would like to go back to Japan and Solomon Islands if, in the spirit of cooperation, they would be willing to accept the proposal and not break the consensus. So I'm asking Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and Japan will not block the consensus. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Solomon Islands.
Thank you, Chair. We do acknowledge the proposal. However, but the challenge is that we small island nations are facing with the continuous listing of the marine species with regards to implementation is challenging. So that is one concern that we see on this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon Islands. So the question is whether you can agree on the consensus in the room that the species be listed, or do you want to block that consensus? That's the question. Solomon Islands.
Thank you, Chair. So if we want the proposal is gone through, then we want a delay in implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Solomon Islands. That's exactly what the EU has been proposing. They are proposing an 18-month delay in implementation, which would hopefully take care of your concerns. So thank you very much for your cooperation. So this decision of Committee 1 then is Committee 1 accepts by consensus Proposal 37 to include Holothuria lesoni in Appendix 2 with a delay of 18 months for the implementation of that listing. So thank you very much. So with this, we now move on to next proposal, which is CoP20, Proposal 28, on Calcareus longimanus, the oceanic white-tip shark. It is a proposal to transfer the species from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. There's quite a number of proponents. Argentina, Bahamas, Brazil, Comoros, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, European Union, Fiji, Gabon, Honduras, Lebanon, Oman, Panama, Samoa, Senegal, Seychelles, Sri Lanka, Sudan, Togo, United Kingdom of Great Britain, and Northern Ireland. So I would give the floor to Panama to introduce that document.
Gracias, señor presidente. Para Panamá es un honor presentar la propuesta conjunta de transferir el tiburón de puntas blancas oceánico Calcareus longimanus del apéndice 2 al apéndice 1. Esta propuesta, respaldada por 47 copatrocinadores, refleja una preocupación compartida basada en pruebas científicas abrumadoras sobre el drástico declive de esta emblemática especie pelágica. El tiburón punta blanca oceánico está clasificado a nivel mundial como en peligro crítico debido a la marcada y continua disminución poblacional que supera el 80% y en algunas regiones alcanza el 98% en las últimas 3 generaciones. A pesar de las prohibiciones de retención impuestas por todas las organizaciones regionales de ordenación pesquera del atún, la protección total es más de 31 jurisdicciones y su inclusión en el apéndice 2 de las CITES desde el 2013. La población sigue disminuyendo, lo que demuestra que las medidas existentes son insuficientes para detener las reducciones. El principal factor que impulsa este declive es la sobreexplotación constante, tanto legal como ilegal. Aunque el comercio legal declarado de productos derivados del tiburón punta blanca oceánico parece bajo, persiste un comercio ilegal sustancial, especialmente en Asia Oriental, donde las aletas secas, distintivas y fácilmente reconocibles, siguen teniendo un gran valor, lo que incentiva su retención incluso donde está prohibida. Las pruebas de ADN realizadas a las aletas en los centros del comercio mundial revelaron que hay 70 veces más aletas que las registradas en los datos comerciales de las CITES, lo que significa que hasta el 95% del comercio de aletas de tiburón de punta blanca oceánico es ilegal y que la inclusión en el apéndice 2 no ha frenado el flujo comercial de sus aletas en los 12 años transcurridos desde su inclusión, lo que respalda su inclusión en el apéndice 1 en esta COP20. Estos hallazgos demuestran que existe un claro comercio internacional que amenaza a la especie con la extinción. La especie fue objeto de una revisión del comercio significativo durante los últimos 3 años y todas las partes incluidas en el proceso establecieron prohibiciones de captura y comercio o cuotas de exportación cero en respuesta a ello. Casi no hay ejemplo de DEM positivo para la especie en la década transcurrida desde su inclusión en el apéndice 2. Estos resultados dejan muy claro que no es posible un comercio sostenible y legal de esta especie en peligro crítico de extinción. Es necesario incluir al tiburón punta blanca oceánico en el apéndice 1 para eliminar los incentivos comerciales internacionales que socavan los esfuerzos de conservación y aplicación de la ley. Es importante destacar que la implementación será factible. Las aletas del tiburón punta blanca oceánico son morfológicamente distintivas y ya existen herramientas de identificación visual y pruebas rápidas de ADN que son ampliamente utilizadas por los gobiernos para la aplicación de la ley en virtud del apéndice 2. No se necesitan nuevas herramientas de identificación para respaldar esta inclusión, ya que las herramientas existentes permiten identificar fácilmente sus aletas. Además, la inclusión en el apéndice 1 alinearía mejor las CITES con otras obligaciones internacionales, como la inclusión actual de la especie en el apéndice 1 de la CMS y las prohibiciones totales de captura de los organismos regionales pesqueros que ya prohíben la retención en todas las flotas industriales a nivel mundial. Distinguidos delegados, la ciencia es inequívoca y el riesgo es inmediato. El tiburón de punta blanca oceánico ha sufrido uno de los descensos más pronunciados registrados entre las especies de tiburones pelágicos y el comercio legal e ilegal que se sigue practicando continua, impulsando su trayectoria hacia la extinción. La inclusión en el apéndice 1 reforzará el cumplimiento, eliminará los incentivos comerciales para la retención ilegal, reforzará y armonizará las medidas de CITES con las protecciones nacionales e internacionales existentes y dará a esta especie la mejor oportunidad de recuperación. Por estas razones, instamos respetuosamente a las partes a que adopten esta propuesta y contribuyan a garantizar que el tiburón de punta blanca oceánico no desaparezca en nuestros océanos. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Panama. I now open the floor to parties. I see New Zealand.
Thank you, Chair. New Zealand supports this proposal. The Oceanic white-tip shark is one of the species of shark that's absolutely protected under the New Zealand Wildlife Act. It's also protected under our New Zealand Fisheries Act, which means New Zealand flagged vessels are prohibited from taking them on the high seas as well. All 4 tuna RFMOs have retention bans on this largely tropical deep water epipelagic species, and the species is also included in Appendix 1 of CMS. It is therefore makes it really difficult to understand how this species can be legally harvested and then traded on international markets. Despite the largely global retention bans, significant quantities of fins of this critically endangered shark still appear in the fin markets of Asia, as shown by studies of the proportion of the species that are identified in trimmings at Asian fish markets. Given the parlous state of the global population, with a well-documented decline to less than 5% of historical population levels in the best studied population, which is in the area covered by the Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission, it is also hard to understand how a party could possibly make a positive NDF finding. The tuna RFMOs are leading the way in efforts to conserve this species, and CITES has been lagging behind. And an Appendix 1 listing can help stamp out the trade of the species caught by IUU fishing. New Zealand takes a precautionary approach, especially where data is sparse, and so we believe that this species is deserving of a CITES Appendix 1 listing that would prevent commercial trade of the species until such time as stocks recover. Thank you.
Thank you, New Zealand. I have Sri Lanka now.
Thank you, Chair. Since this is the first time the delegation of Sri Lanka is taking the floor, we wish to congratulate you on your appointment. Thank the government of Uzbekistan for its excellent hospitality and acknowledge the Secretariat for its preparatory work. Chair, we have co-sponsored this proposal in recognition of the severe global decline of shark and ray population and the urgent need for decisive action to strengthen their management through CITES. Sri Lanka has fully protected oceanic white-tip shark in response to steep population declines and growing conservation concern. As an island fishing nation, we depend on marine species, including many sharks and rays, for livelihood and food security. However, to safeguard these resources For present and future generations, we recognize that trade should only occur when it's sustainable. CITES listings are therefore essential to achieving this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Lanka. Just to note that we are quite well aware that co-proponents certainly support this proposal. So if co-proponents really want to take the floor, be crisp, short, and clear that you support this proposal, because otherwise we will be sitting here much longer. So please, with your indulgence, I would like to ask you to be very short when you make your interventions, because we know that you are in support of this proposal. So next one is Oman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding CoP20 Proposal 28, the Sultanate of Oman support Panama's proposal to transfer the Oceanic white-tip shark to Appendix 1. Oman has recently completed a national non-detrimental finding for this species, which confirm its high biological vulnerability, severe population decline, and ongoing trade pressure. Our study concluded that sustainable trade is not possible under the current situation, and stronger international protection is urgently needed. By endorsing this proposal, Oman reaffirmed its commitment to safeguard marine biodiversity and ensuring the future generation benefit from the healthy oceanic system. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Oman. I have now Mauritania.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La Mauritanie soutient la proposition 28 pour la protection de requins océaniques qui est en voie de disparition. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mauritania. Pakistan.
Thank you, Chair. Pakistan supports this uplisting proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Pakistan. Bahamas.
Thank you, Chair. The Bahamas, as a co-sponsor of Proposal 28, supports transferring the oceanic white-tip shark to Appendix 1. This species is critically endangered, and the Bahamas is one of the last few places where oceanic white-tips can still be reliably encountered. On Cat Island, a Bahamian island recognized for shark research, these sharks form seasonal aggregations that attract scientists, students, and eco-tourists. On Andros, another major Bahamian island, students from the Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute have had opportunities to learn about sharks while they assist leading researchers studying sharks and other elasmobranchs. Many international television programs also film in the Bahamas because our waters still support accessible shark populations. Some have suggested that listings can affect livelihoods. We agree. Listing will have a positive effect. Healthy shark populations strengthen our ecotourism sector that supports jobs across our islands. Further declines in oceanic white-tips or sharks more broadly offer no benefit to anyone. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the term critically endangered. The next category is extinct in the wild, meaning that any further decline would put this species beyond recovery. We cannot take risks with a species in this condition, not only for the sake of the Bahamas, but for the global community. Given the species' global status, utilizing a very strict approach, such as Appendix 1 listing, is sometimes necessary. If not now, when would it be appropriate? The Bahamas strongly supports Proposal 28 and encourages parties to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Bahamas. Gabon, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. En tant que co-auteur, le Gabon invite les parties à soutenir cette proposition de transfert du requin océanique de l'annexe 2 à l'annexe 1. En effet, Le requin océanique est aujourd'hui une espèce au bord de l'extinction, avec des déclins supérieurs à 80% confirmés dans tous les océans. Malgré les interdictions de rétention adoptées par les organisations régionales de gestion de la pêche et de nombreuses protections nationales, un commerce international important et illégal continue d'alimenter sa disparition. En tant que pays pionnier en Afrique pour la protection des requins et des raies, avec un réseau d'aires marines protégées parmi les plus ambitieux du continent, le Gabon considère qu'il est de notre responsabilité collective d'agir avec cohérence et détermination. Ainsi, l'annexe 1 est la seule mesure crédible pour stopper le commerce, réduire la pression de pêche et donner aux requins océaniques une chance réelle de se rétablir. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Gabon. Djibouti.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, pour la parole accordée. La République de Djibouti se félicite de la proposition soumise par le Panama, Honduras, Brésil, Sénégal et les autres co-auteurs pour transférer le requin océanique de l'annexe 2 à l'annexe 1, conformément à la résolution COP 9-24, COP 17, annexe 1, paragraphe 5, CC. En effet, les informations présentées montrent les menaces qui pèsent sur cette espèce, y compris dans d'autres régions qui ne sont pas mentionnées dans cette proposition. Ainsi, ce transfert de l'annexe 2 à l'annexe 1 permettra à cette espèce d'avoir une protection internationale. À ce titre, nous appuyons cette proposition. Cependant, comme il n'existe aucune estimation globale de la population totale de requins océaniques actuellement, nous encourageons les pays de l'ère de répartition de cette espèce de lancer des études scientifiques, et ce, afin de déterminer la population de cette espèce dans leur juridiction nationale. De plus, nous encourageons ces pays, selon qu'il convient, de mettre en place des instruments juridiques conformément aux dispositions de l'annexe 1 de la CITES. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Djibouti. I have Zimbabwe.
We couldn't wait to support. Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for giving me the floor. Zimbabwe makes this statement on behalf of the Africa Group. Chair, Africa analyzed the scientific merit of the proposal 28 on white-tip shark and recommend that this proposal be adopted as a precautionary measure. Chair, inclusion of the oceanic white-tip shark in Appendix 1 satisfies criterion C in Annex 1 of Resolution 924 based on species experiencing a marked decline in its global population. Chair, it is important to note that there is consensus by the Africa region on this issue. Although the species is affected in different ways in different regions, they still need to closely monitor international trade in the species driven by demand for their fins. Thank you.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. So with this, I think I would, I have a very long list, so I will have to be pretty soon closing interventions, so I will give the floor to some more parties, but not that many. So Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Canada supports the transfer of the oceanic white-tip shark to Appendix 1. The species meets the CITES Appendix 1 criteria due to its marked population decline, high vulnerability, and ongoing threats from illegal international fin trade. Prohibiting commercial international trade would help incentivize retention and assist in species recovery amid continuing threats from illegal trade. Thank you.
Thank you. I will take 4 more interventions, then I will, after that I will ask those parties who are in support to take themselves off the list, but I will now take Chile.
Gracias, señor presidente. Hablo en nombre de Honduras,
Bahamas, Belice, República Dominicana, Panamá, Argentina, Brasil, Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Uruguay y Chile sobre la propuesta de enmienda número 28. Esta propuesta señala evidencia científica contundente a que el tiburón puntas blancas oceánico ha sufrido una reducción superior al 80% de su población en las últimas 3 generaciones, cumpliendo plenamente los criterios de inclusión en el apéndice 1 de la CITES. Este condrictio pelágico enfrenta hoy una amenaza crítica de extinción debido a la sobrepesca y al comercio internacional de sus aletas. Las principales organizaciones regionales de ordenación pesquera ya han prohibido su retención y más de 30 estados de su área de distribución lo protegen totalmente. Sin embargo, los registros de comercio muestran que persiste un flujo ilegal significativo, lo que demuestra que las medidas actuales son insuficientes. La transferencia del apéndice 1 no solo responde a la urgencia de detener este comercio insostenible, sino que también armoniza las obligaciones internacionales bajo la Convención sobre Especies Migratorias y otros acuerdos regionales. Hoy tenemos la responsabilidad de actuar con decisión. La inclusión del tiburón puntas blancas oceánico en el apéndice 1 es una medida técnica necesaria y justificada para garantizar la supervivencia de una especie clave en los ecosistemas oceánicos y para demostrar nuestro compromiso con la conservación global. Muchas gracias.
So thank you, Chile and others. So I now open the floor to Japan. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Japan first would like to thank the proponents for preparing this proposal, which has drawn attention to the need for the conservation and management for the species. However, Japan has to oppose this proposal to transfer this species from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1 for the following reasons. First, Japan considers that this proposal lacks scientific rationale for transferring this species to Appendix 1. The FAO Expert Advisory Panel concluded that this proposal doesn't meet a listing criteria globally. We also believe that the effectiveness of listing this species in Appendix 2 for its conservation hasn't been sufficiently reviewed since it was listed at CoP16 in 2013. Second, this species is properly managed by coastal states and RFMOs. The FAO Expert Advisory Panel also pointed out that the management measures already in place at the national level and in tuna RFMOs are extensive and potentially effective in improving the recovery of this species. Lastly, listing in CITES Appendix 1 requires not only export permits, but also import permits. This creates additional burdens for scientists and researchers engaging in international exchange of scientific samples. Japan is concerned that such an uplisting would negatively affect scientific research activities and wouldn't contribute to the conservation of the species. Therefore, Japan opposes this proposal in order to ensure the smooth conduct of research activities and the sustainable use of this species. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. And as last, I will take Lebanon. Lebanon, you have the floor.
Comme co-auteur de la proposition 28, le Liban demande à tous les États parties de soutenir cette proposition. Il faut agir pour protéger la population qui reste. Je vous remercie.
So thank you. So with this, I would like to ask all parties who are in favor of this proposal to take themselves off the list, because I will not take you up anymore. So I have China. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. China observed that there is already a strong protection framework for Oceanic white-tip shark within most of its range, including prohibition on catching, transporting, landing, or commercial use of the species. China does not see the necessity for further include this species in Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. And Fiji?
Thank you, Chair. Fiji does support Proposal 28, but we would like to state for the record that for Pacific Island countries, shark species represent cultural totems and are a very critical part of our identity as well. And that's one of the very important reasons why we are supporting this proposal. In Appendix, we do realize as well that an Appendix 1 listing will ensure that the remaining legal and illegal trade pathways are effectively closed and will align CITES measures with existing obligations under other international agreements. Given the severity and persistence of decline, this action is timely, justified, and essential. Therefore, Fiji encourages parties to support the uplifting of the species from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Fiji. Now I open the floor to observers for 2 interventions. Okay, I will take FAO. FAO, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The FAO expert panel examined Proposal 28 and concluded that, at the global level, the proposal does not meet the criteria for listing in Appendix 1. While the Oceanic white-tip shark is a low to medium productivity species and have experienced significant declines, the global extent of decline falls short of the threshold required for Appendix 1 listing under CITES criteria for such species. As a globally distributed species and a species that has experienced no range restriction of any population, the proposal does not meet the criteria for listing under Appendix 1. Across its distribution, Oceanic white-tip shark did meet the criteria for Appendix 1 in one ocean basin, the Western and Central Pacific. The expert panel recognized that strong fisheries management measures are implemented at both national and regional levels, including the Western and Central Pacific retention ban in 2011, which is supporting successful rebuilding of the species. FAO further highlights that a CITES Appendix 1 listing could inadvertently hinder data collection and sample sharing, which is an essential component of effective conservation management. The scale of international trade remains difficult to quantify, and while illegal trade is a concern, the available evidence does not substantiate a level of trade that would justify an Appendix 1 listing globally. FAO highlights that to ensure conservation of aquatic species, science-based decision-making in the CITES processes requires trade measures to be complementary to and not undermining of fisheries management that is proving effective. To close, the expert panel determined that Proposal 28, which describes a broadly distributed species found across its traditional range, a species present in multiple tens of millions, does not align with the CITES criteria for a species listed on Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, FAO. I take TMS.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to make an intervention on Proposal 28, which also applies to Proposals 30, 31, and 32. In the interest of time, I'm making only one intervention. The CMS Secretariat would like to remind the 132 CITES parties that are also parties to CMS that all shark and ray species proposed for transfer from CITES Appendix 2 to Appendix 1 are already included in CMS Appendix 1. These species are Carcharinus longimanus, Mobolida, Mantan devil rays, and Rhinocodon typus, the whale shark. Furthermore, the Mediterranean population of Glaucostegus gemiculus, the black-chin guitarfish, covered by Proposal 32, is also included in CMS Appendix 1. This is highly relevant to the CITES parties that are also CMS parties here in this room. Under CMS Article 3.5, CMS parties that are range states of a migratory species listed in Appendix 1 shall prohibit the taking of animals belonging to such species, with exceptions only in narrowly defined circumstances. Legal acquisition finding for these species by CMS parties should therefore not be possible. CITES parties that are also CMS parties, therefore, are strongly urged to consider these legal obligations under CMS when deciding on proposals for inclusion of species in CITES appendices. Official CMS comments on shark and ray listing proposals are published, by the way, in document CoP20 114.3, Annex 2. Thank you.
Thank you, CMS. So with this, I would like to conclude. We have, I think, overwhelming support for the inclusion of this species in Appendix 1. We have two parties who have been speaking against it, so I would like to return to them to see if they could be willing to not break the consensus. These are Japan and China, and I would like to ask them to take the floor whether they are willing to compromise on this matter. I see Japan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Japan doesn't block consensus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I ask China? China, you have the floor.
China doesn't agree to compromise. Thank you.
So having not an agreement in the room and having no consensus, I think we have to go to a vote. St. Lucia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, recognizing that your course of action is to go to a vote, I would like to request a secret ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, St. Lucia. So in order to have a secret ballot on this matter, I need 10 parties seconding that request. So if you support a secret ballot on this matter, please press your button. Okay, finished. It's good. No, you have to, as I said, the Bureau has decided that the names of parties seconding have to be read out. So if you push your button, please leave it on, and then I can read them out. It's good now, we have enough. So leave your buttons alighted. So we have Zambia, St. Kitts and Nevis, China, Sri Lanka, Japan, Suriname, Kuwait, Panama, Cambodia, Central African Republic, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Honduras, Pakistan, Cote d'Ivoire, and Lebanon. Okay, that's enough parties, so we'll have the vote as a secret ballot. So please, Secretariat, make sure that everyone is seated, that nobody is walking around. Okay, this is a vote for proposal number 28 to include, to transfer Cacarainus longimanus, the oceanic white-tip shark, from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. If you vote yes, you support the transfer of that species from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. If you vote no, you are against that transfer. The voting type is by secret ballot. The vote of the European Union will be cast by the delegation of the EU. Since this is a vote on the proposal for amendment of the appendices 1 and 2, the decision will be adopted by a 2/3 majority. Okay, so we are ready. Parties, you have 40 seconds to cast your vote. The ballot is open now. Please show the results on the screen. So with with 100 votes in favor of the proposal, 22 against, and 6 abstentions, the proposal CoP20, Proposal 28 to transfer Cacharinas longimanus from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1 was accepted. So with this, we move now to the next proposal, which is CoP20, Proposal 29 on Galeorinus galeos, the school shark or top shark, and Mustelus spp smoothhounds. It is a proposal to include these species in Appendix 2. The proponents are Bahamas, Belize, Brazil, Comoros, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Fiji, Gabon, Jamaica, Maldives, Panama, Samoa, Senegal, Seychelles, Sudan, and Togo. I would like to invite Brazil to present that proposal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Sharks are not simply ocean dwellers. They are the pulse that keeps marine life in balance. When sharks disappears, the ocean begins to fail, biodiversity collapses, and ecosystems lose their stability. More, with that loss comes a profound cultural, economical, and ethical void. Shark watching tourism, coastal traditions, and the very sense of wonder these animals inspire are all at risk. Yet sharks now face one of the most alarming declines in their evolutionary story. Unsustainable fishing, driven largely by international demand for meat, fins, and other products, is pushing many species towards irreversible collapse. We are witnessing a crisis that's measurable, accelerating, and entirely preventable. For this reason, Brazil, together with Ecuador, European Union, Panama, and Senegal, submit this Convention Proposal 29, requesting the listing of Galeorinus galeos, Mustelus schmidt, and Mustelus mustelus in CITES Appendix 2 under Article 2.2a. The size is unequivocal. Populations of Mustelus mustelus, and Galeohinus galeus stocks have suffered drastic declines in the last decades due to unsustainable fisheries. Target catches continues. Retention of bycatch from depleted stocks continues. According to IUCN, those species, the Mustelus schmidt and Galeohinus galeus, are critically endangered. Each have declined most 80% over 3 generations. Mustelus mustelus is endangered with reductions between 50 to 79%. These numbers are not narratives, neither abstractions. They represent species on the age according to the best science we have at this moment. Mustelus schmidt and Galeohinus galeus meet criterion C. Brazil also proposed including all Mustelus species in Appendix 2 under the lookalike provision Annex 2B, as their trade products closely resemble those of Galeohinus galeus, making identification extremely difficult, as noted by FAO in multiple studies. With 28 species in Mustelus, nearly half threatened, failing to protect one means failing protecting all. The FAO CITES panel's central flaw was treating the recovery of Mustelus schmidt as an assumption rather than a hypothesis based on plausible facts. Given that the declines of Mustelus schmidt and the taupe Galeohinus galeus have persisted for decades with no consistent signs of rebound even under protection efforts, presuming recovery is very risky and would require a long period of time, especially considering Elasmobranch's life history traits, which commonly make recovery slow or unlikely to take place within realistic management timeframes. Moreover, market dynamics, namely mislabeling, underreporting of catch, sustain demand, mainly steady levels of fishing pressure, leading to misleading catch data, population trends, further undermining any claim that recovery is likely to take place, worsening chances of population recovery of those species. An ocean without shark is an ocean losing its life force. Let us choose protection. Let us choose science. Let us choose the survival of sharks. Let us choose the future of our descendants. For this reason, Brazil asked the parties to support our proposition and for cooperation to ensure its effective implementation. We have heard suggestions to improve our proposal. In this sense, we are showing flexibility and we are proposing an amendment to this proposal, a delayed implementation of this decision so that it enters into force 18 months after the COP. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brazil, and sorry for the confusion. I had wrong list of parties on my sheet, so it's of course the list that Brazil mentioned. So it's the proponents are Brazil, Ecuador, European Union, Panama, and Senegal. So sorry about that. So we have a changed proposal, which is the proposal 29 with, in addition, a delay of implementation of 18 months after entering into force. So to make sure that everyone is clear, this is now the proposal we are looking at. So with this, I open the floor for comments. I see the United States. You have the floor.
Apologies, Chair. This actually referred to the previous item, and we can go back to it after if you'd like, but the United States wanted to note its transparency. Sorry. I pressed it earlier, but not fast enough, I guess.
I will let you make your statements, but now we have started the new proposal. I will come back and hope not to forget it. Otherwise, you can push me. Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. So I have New Zealand. New Zealand, you have the floor.
New Zealand thank you, Chair. New Zealand thanks Brazil, the European Union and others for bringing the proposal to COP20. New Zealand wishes to propose an amendment to the proposal and annotation to exclude the New Zealand populations of taupe or school shark, Galerineus galleus, and rig shark, Mustelus lenticulatus. New Zealand is a strong supporter of the objectives of CITES and thus sustainable and legal trade. Both Galerineus galleus and Mustelus lenticulatus have been successfully managed in the New Zealand EEZ since 1986 under our quota management system on an area-by-area basis. New Zealand accounts for approximately 60% of the global catch of Galerineus galleus and 40% of the international trade. New Zealand is the only fisher and exporter of Mustelus lenticulatus, as it is an endemic coastal shark. Both the whole population and any subcomponents of both species are all at or above the maximum sustainable yield level of the populations, which is at least twice the extent of decline threshold of 20% identified in the CITES listing criteria for Appendix 2 for sharks. Populations of both species in New Zealand waters have been close to stable for decades and are not overfished. Separately, both species are classified as not threatened in the most recent assessment using the New Zealand Threat Classification System. In addition, New Zealand is very isolated geographically, over 1,000 kilometres from its nearest neighbour. This makes monitoring, reporting and tracing specimens much easier than in situations with land borders. Approximately 95% of our exports go to Australia under a transparent and well-regulated arrangement. We do not share this trade route with any other countries. Fillets of both these species are low value per kilogram products, so there are no incentives for smuggling or fraudulent mislabelling. There has been no issue of illegal or unregulated fishing for these species in New Zealand waters. Appendix 2 requirements would not improve conservation outcomes for the New Zealand population, but would impose unnecessary compliance burdens on a fishery that is already sustainably and transparently managed. We respectfully ask the meeting to recognise our effective national management of both Galerineus galleus and Mustelus lenticulatus and add an annotation to exclude New Zealand populations of both species from the Appendix 2 listing if it is agreed. If it is not agreed, we thank the proponents for their delayed implementation to allow us to realise the CITES requirements effectively. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is an amendment to this proposal, which is going to be treated alongside the original proposal. So when you make your interventions, please refer to these two proposals and also indicate whether you are accepting the proposed amendment by New Zealand, so that we can then decide what we want to do. First, I would like to go back to the proponents, Brazil, if they would accept this amendment to the proposal, or if they don't, so that we are clear that we have two different proposals in front of us. So, Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. To be honest, I'm quite surprised on that, but we believe that it's quite difficult to have some of those species in Appendix 2 and others not included, because there are very similar species and there would be a lot of difficulties in the implementation side to really differentiate one species to the other. So we believe that we cannot accept this proposal, because there would be no grounds for implementation on that. But we already expressed some flexibility on trying to have the delayed implementation, and would request New Zealand to withdraw their amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. So at this stage, we do have two proposals to look at. It's the original one as amended by Brazil with a delay of implementation of 18 months, and the amended proposal by New Zealand with annotation to exclude the populations of Galerineus galleus and Mustelus lenticulatus, the populations of New Zealand of Galeorinus, Galeos, and Mustelos lenticulatus. So these are the two proposals we now have to look at. I open the floor for any comments on this. I have Senegal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Sénégal est co-auteur à cette proposition. Le document qui vous a été présenté est amendé par le Brésil tout de suite, et que dans certaines régions, ces espèces ont déjà connu de véritables effondrements de pêcheries. Un effondrement, c'est à la fois une catastrophe écologique, mais un choc socio-économique, notamment pour les communautés qui y dépendent. Je voudrais vous faire comprendre que inscrire à l'annexe 2, ce n'est pas interdire aux populations de s'en user, et donc c'est pourquoi il faut prendre des mesures pour que ces communautés continuent à bénéficier ou à utiliser ces espèces de manière durable. L'une des principales pressions conduisant à ces effondrements est le commerce international. Donc inscrire ces espèces à l'annexe 2 est donc un moyen essentiel de réduire ce facteur de risque et d'encadrer la commercialisation, mais également de soutenir le rétablissement des populations, ce qui permettra dans quelques années, si les populations se reconstituent, de revenir. Nous insistons également sur le point fondamental. Si seulement certaines espèces étaient inscrites, la pression de pêche pourrait se déplacer automatiquement vers les autres espèces, et qui ne serait pas aggraver les déclins et comportements de toute la gestion durable. C'est pourquoi nous nous opposons à l'amendement de Nouvelle-Zélande. Pour toutes ces raisons, le Sénégal invite les parties à soutenir pleinement la proposition présentée par le Brésil dans l'intérêt tant de la conservation, mais surtout des communautés côtières pour une utilisation beaucoup plus durable, et également aussi d'avoir des données suffisantes pour une meilleure gestion dans la suite à venir. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Senegal. I have now Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Chair. Taupe and smooth-hound sharks are highly threatened due to overfishing driven by international trade, and their steep population declines fully meet Appendix 2 listing criteria. It is important to note that an Appendix 2 listing does not prohibit national catch or consumption. Rather, it helps alleviate pressure on these species by regulating international trade and encouraging strengthened management. Sri Lanka values the intention of Brazil's proposal and strongly recommends its adoption to help prevent further unregulated decline and to support sustainable fisheries that secure long-term livelihoods for fishers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Lanka. Okay, in your statements, as we have also an amendment proposed by New Zealand, please also consider this amendment so that we have a general view of the room on these two proposals, because you have now two proposals, the original one of Brazil with the amendment of a delay of 18 months, and the proposal from New Zealand to exclude their populations of these two species. So I need also to hear a bit from you on that matter. So I open the floor now to Kenya. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Kenya would like to thank Brazil, Senegal, and others for bringing up this proposal and supports the inclusion of this species in Appendix 2 and with the amendments that have been proposed by Brazil to delay the implementation by 18 months. Mr. Chairman, this is because listing the species in Appendix 2 will be instrumental in regulating international trade and ensure that overexploitation is managed through international regulation and careful monitoring of harvest, which is essential for ensuring that overexploitation of this species is controlled. In regard to the amendments proposed by New Zealand, we are against split listing for the reasons that it will create enforcement challenges. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kenya. I have now Monaco.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monaco soutient la proposition présentée par le Brésil avec le délai de 18 mois pour sa mise en œuvre. Merci.
Thank you. I have Somalia.
Thank you, Jay. Somalia supports the inclusion of school shark and smooth horde in CITES Appendix 2, ensure global regulation of trade. Thank you.
Thank you, Somalia. European Union.
Something like that. It's, I think we give them a compliment or something. That European Union.
European Union, you have the floor.
Gracias, presidente. Hablo en nombre de la Unión Europea y de sus 27 Estados miembros. Valoramos enormemente los esfuerzos de Brasil y el resto de coproponentes por presentar esta importante propuesta para garantizar una mejor protección del tiburón cazón o vitamínico, Galorhinus galeus, de la Musela gatusa, Mustelus smithii, la Musela lisa, Mustelus mustelus y todas las demás especies del género Mustelus. Las poblaciones de Galorhinus galeus y Mustelus smithii han sufrido descensos severos superiores al 80% en 3 generaciones y están clasificadas como en peligro crítico en la lista roja de la IUCN. Mustelus mustelus también ha experimentado una reducción global del 50 al 79% en las últimas 3 generaciones y está clasificado como en peligro según la UICN. Estas tendencias se deben en gran medida a pesquerías no sostenibles y al comercio internacional de carnes y aletas. Además, los especímenes de otras especies del género Mustelus, en la forma en que se comercializan, es improbable que puedan identificarse a nivel de especie. Muchos desembarcos se registran bajo nombres genéricos como cazón o casao, lo que dificulta enormemente la aplicación de la normativa. Por este motivo, incluir todo el género Mustelus en el apéndice 2 está justificado y es necesario para garantizar una implementación eficaz. Reconocemos que muchas partes ya están realizando esfuerzos significativos para conservar y gestionar las poblaciones de tiburones. Sin embargo, la captura dirigida y la captura accidental en poblaciones esquilmadas siguen impulsando nuevos descensos. La regulación del comercio es, por tanto, esencial para evitar que estas especies pasen a ser elegibles para el apéndice 1 en un futuro próximo. En este contexto, animamos a las partes a apoyar la propuesta original con la demora de implementación de 18 meses, que representa un paso importante hacia la gestión sostenible de estas especies y refleja la urgente necesidad de cooperación internacional. Por tanto, no apoyamos la propuesta sugerida por Nueva Zelanda de hacer un listado dividido, pero confiamos en las prácticas de manejo de Nueva Zelanda. Gracias.
Okay, now I give the floor to Australia. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. While New Zealand should be commended for their management of sustainable stocks of Galeorhinus galeus and Mustela lenticulatus, implementing a split listing that would exclude the New Zealand populations of these species from Appendix 2 could pose significant implementation and enforcement challenges once that product is in the global market. We recognise New Zealand's effective management of their school shark and rig fishery, and we will aim to support New Zealand in their implementation of this listing if it is successful. However, we have significant concerns with the risks associated with split listings, even in the circumstances described by New Zealand. Australia thanks Brazil for their amendment to include an 18-month delay. This delay will give parties time to implement effective NDFs, ensure impacted industries are aware of permitting requirements, and address any other implementation challenges. We therefore support the amended proposal put forward by Brazil and their co-proponents. And additionally, for the sake of transparency, we would like to put on the record that we supported the proposal to list Oceanic white-tipped shark in Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. United States.
Thank you, Chair. The United States would like to align with Kenya, the EU, and Australia in supporting the proposal as amended by Brazil. And we also have concerns about the proposal as amended by New Zealand. And also, I will also add, in the interest of transparency, that the United States voted yes on the Oceanic white-tip proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, United States. I have now Mauritania.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La Mauritanie soutient les propositions du Sénégal, Brésil et Panama relatives au maintien des espèces de requins émissoles à l'annexe 2 pour assurer la meilleure protection pour cette espèce. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Now I have Sudan.
Thank you, Chair. Sudan support the proposal that given by Brazil and Senegal, and does not support the proposal of New Zealand concerning the uplisting of the species. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudan. Mali.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La République du Mali remercie le secrétariat ainsi que les auteurs de la proposition pour les éclairages fournis et approuve l'inscription de cette espèce à l'annexe 2 avec l'amendement proposé par le Brésil dans l'optique des mesures de précaution et de reconstitution de l'espèce. Le Mali rejette l'amendement de la Nouvelle-Zélande. Je vous remercie.
I have now Colombia.
Gracias, señor presidente. Colombia agradece a los autores de la propuesta, teniendo en consideración la información presentada por Brasil y nuestras medidas de conservación nacional sobre todas las especies de lasmobranquios marinos y el papel que ha tenido nuestro país a nivel internacional en este tema desde la CoP20 de CITES. Colombia está de acuerdo en apoyar la propuesta original de Brasil y los demás proponentes. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you. I have Iran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Iran supports the original proposal and the amendment made by Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you. Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Japan does not support both original and amended proposals for the following reasons. First, Japan considers that the proposal is not based on scientific information. We note that both FAO and CITES Secretariat have concluded that this proposal does not meet the listing criteria based on scientific grounds. Second, in Japan, only 2 species within this species group are distributed, while the others do not occur in Japanese water. Thus, species exported from Japan are not mixed with those those that are absent from our borders. So Japan is not in a position to accept unnecessary trade restrictions on species endemic to Japan based on the lookalike criteria. For those reasons, Japan does not support the proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. We only have 2 minutes left, and I still have 8 parties who are wishing to take the floor, and I don't want to rush this decision, so I would propose to adjourn the debate on this matter and do it first thing tomorrow in the morning. I have a picture of the list of intervenants, and we will start with these parties that have asked for the floor, and will then, I suppose, reach quite quickly a conclusion on this matter. But I don't think we can keep the interpreters for another 15 minutes, because I guess that's what it would take to finish here up. So we will start with this tomorrow morning as a first agenda item. And I adjourn the debate on this matter in that case. Does the Secretariat have housekeeping announcements to make? In the meantime, if there is another party who would, based on common practice, wants to make their vote known on the Oceanic white-tip shark, for which we had a secret ballot, then please do so. I have the European Union.
Thank you, Chair. In the interest of transparency, we would like to let you know we voted positive yes for the Oceanic white-tip. Thank you.
UK.
Thank you, Chair. For transparency, the UK voted yes.
Mexico.
Gracias, señor presidente. En aras de la transparencia, México comparte que votó a favor de la propuesta. Gracias.
Okay. Brazil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In the interest of transparency, Brazil also votes in favor of this proposal. Thank you.
Ecuador.
Gracias, señor presidente. En aras de la transparencia, Ecuador también votó afirmativamente a favor de la propuesta.
Honduras.
Desea mencionar que nosotros también votamos positivamente.
Fiji.
Thank you, Chair. In the spirit of transparency, Fiji voted yes, but I also would like to come in on other matters, but if you would allow me to do so.
No, I have adjourned the debate on the proposal, so I don't think we can take any more comments on that matter. You will have the possibility tomorrow to do so. So it is now Burundi. Kenya or Burundi now. Kenya.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'avais appuyé pour avant que vous leviez la séance.
Okay, Kenya.
Chairman, we voted yes, and it's good to put it on record.
And Colombia.
Gracias, señor presidente. En aras de la transparencia, Colombia quiere decir que afirmó la propuesta de Carcharinos. Gracias.
Okay, so with this, I close the session, and we can reconvene tomorrow morning. Have a nice evening.